that accounting is not always what artists think of first in their lives. They're doing all these wonderful creative things, and that's generally frowned upon when you're in accounting, to be overly creative. But I think you've been really able to provide such a needed resource to these artists and help them move forward. But also you raise funds to help artists in other ways. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We also help. So we consider ourselves social entrepreneurs, and so we are very big advocates of people developing skill sets that for them to succeed. And so one of the things that we also do is we help targeted local artisans by purchasing necessary equipment for them to actually flourish and actually develop their businesses.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. I know you've helped some talented woodworkers get started, weavers, and many other artists. It's really greatly appreciated. Plus your contributions to the beauty of the healing gardens is really wonderful. Do you want to share with us maybe one of your most meaningful interactions volunteering with folks through Virgie, Giles?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the big things was, when this pandemic hit and people had to start shutting down, and literally people were trying to just stay afloat. And when I went through the whole PPP process for ourselves, and I reached out to our other networks of people like minority-owned small businesses. For example, one was a welding shop. And he was literally struggling to stay afloat. And basically, when I reached out to him about this, it was basically like a godsend to him. It was literally life-changing. And having the opportunity to actually help somebody, an individual like this, who was struggling and literally helping them stay afloat, it was very, very meaningful.
That's wonderful. And I know that you have a shop and pop-up things and gardens there in Vallejo. Do you want to tell us about how other people can support your organization through those or get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we actually have a place called the Virgie Garden, the Virgie's Victory Garden in Vallejo. And we actually grow vegetables and flowers and just a lot of produce. And we harvest everything, and we actually give it to our community, people, our neighbors, people who are civil servants who work at the city. So it's a wonderful thing to be able to provide, beautiful fresh vegetables and flowers to all these people. And ways to contribute to our foundation. Donations through our website. And also we are currently in the process of launching a pop-up here at our space in San Francisco, located at 600 Illinois Street. It's going to be called Floral. And it's basically everything floral related, paintings. We'll have flowers from the garden, vegetables as well. And that's another way to support us.
Oh, well, we'll have to check that out when we're in San Francisco next time. Well, thank you for all you've done. I know you've helped many, many local businesses in Vallejo, San Francisco, Napa, and all around the Bay Area. So thank you so much, Calvin, for your contribution to that, and also your contribution to the Everyday Hero program. And if you would like to nominate your own Everyday Hero, please do go to saintsuperi.com/everydayheroes to do so. I'm also thrilled to have with us today Chuck McMinn. Chuck is a startup junkie. We know that about him. And he and his wife, Ann, own Vineyard 29 in St. Helena. I hope you've had the opportunity to taste their delicious wines. They really are quite wonderful. But Chuck's here today, not because of his work with education in Napa Valley, not because of his work with the Napa Valley Vintners, but because of his work with the Napa Valley Vine Trail Coalition. Chuck was nominated. Chuck helped found the Vine Trail Coalition, founded the Vine Trail Coalition in 2008. And they're developing a 47-mile walking and cycling path through Napa Valley. And so if you're coming to Napa and you like to walk, you like to bike, you like to hike, you need to know about the Vine Trail. He's made a tremendous amount of progress on that, all the way from Vallejo to Calistoga. just a beautiful section of our valley, and so much opportunity to get outside, whether you're commuting or playing. So Chuck, it's wonderful to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for all you do for our valley. There's many, many organizations you're involved in, and the Vine Trail just being the most visible. So thank you for your work on that.
Happy to be here, Emma.
Great to have you. So Chuck, tell us a little bit about the Vine Trail and how it all got started and kind of where your progress is.
Yeah, sure. Happy to do that. It got started in 2008 when I kept asking people, why don't we have a trail in our valley? You know, I'm not a big biker, but every time my wife and I go someplace to visit, we always rent bikes and see whatever environment we're in up close and personal. And no one could tell me why we didn't have one. And eventually they said, well, why don't you just make one? And so the Napa Valley Vintners and the Napa Valley Grape Growers and the Land Trust all came together and seed funded us to start the process of figuring out how to bring this idea of a vine trail to life. And in the 11 or 12 years since then, we've now gotten 40% of it done. 40% of the 47 miles is in asphalt, like here between Yountville and the city of Napa. And we'll have two big projects next year that'll connect St. Helena to Calistoga and the Vallejo Ferry Terminal to American Canyon. So we'll be 70% done by the end of next year.
Wow, that's really exciting. It's hard to believe how far you've come in 13 years. You know, it's like, oh, well, it's not so wide, it's not so big, but there's so much that goes into it. There's all of the negotiation with the landowners, there's the coordination with the grants, there's the fundraising. I mean, there's a lot of different areas. You know, tell us kind of what's been the greatest challenge in this process, because it's sort of like, oh, look, Chuck did it just like that. But it's been a huge amount of work, I know.
Yeah, so it's just the fact that there's so many different people involved. First of all, we have 28 different organizations on our board of directors, which might sound unmanageable, but it also is very, very powerful when we apply for a grant, when we can have the vintners and the grape growers and the Rotary and the hospitals and the Farm Bureau and the Sierra Club and the Chambers of Commerce and the realtors and the police department and on and on and on, to be able to say, we support this, we want to make this goal happen. But then on top of that, you know, the state of California has a lot of rules and regulations. There are environmental permits that have to be done. Most of the trail can be on public right away, but we still need on the order of 30 or 40 easements from private landowners for a few feet here and there to get the trail to happen. And then we have to apply for, get, and administer correctly grants. We are raising about 25% of the money philanthropically, but for every dollar we raise, we get to leverage that with $3 of state and federal grants. And so being able to do that really lets us bring the project to home faster, but there's a lot of red tape involved in doing that.
Well, it certainly has been a tremendous asset to our community during COVID, providing a great place to hike, walk, bike. I know I'm on the Vine Trail every week, several times, and I've really been enjoying the art as well, the art installations that are going up. It's just so beautiful to be outside. Can you just tell us maybe what ways we can participate in helping make sure the Vine Trail is completed?
Sure. Well, if you're in Napa Valley, you can join us and become a member. It's $47 and or at $147, you get some cool discounts to a bunch of our partners. But even if you're outside Napa Valley, you can support us with a donation. Just a straight cash donation. You can buy a footprint. We have footprints around every one of our rest stops. That, in fact, there's a half price sale on our footprints, $500 a footprint through the Give Guide, which is our year-end fundraising extravaganza within Napa Valley. Many different charities participating. And I suspect that some of you are wine lovers, and if you'd like to combine wine with philanthropy, the Napa Valley Vine Trail has what we call the Vintners Collection, which is a collection of 10 wines from 10 different wineries that when you put them together, and they're in custom bottles that show a map of the vine trail from end to end.
Oh, they are
And
so beautiful.
yeah, and so it's kind of a fun way to get some great wine, to get a great artistic exhibit when the wine bottles are empty, and support the vine trail.
Well, those are great things. And the footprints are a lovely way to honor a birthday, an anniversary, or someone who's no longer with us. It's a great permanent addition to the vine trail for our friends. So thank you for that, Chuck. And thank you for all the work you do for us here in Napa Valley. We're honored to have you as a leader in our community, making such a difference. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks, Emma.
And we also have with us today Carol Poole with Napa Wildlife Rescue. And Carol is the vice president of Napa Wildlife Rescue. That is a volunteer position, and is the handler of Maddie. You might have spotted her on the intro with the beautiful red-tailed hawk, the Napa Wildlife Rescue's ambassador, and who she brings to classrooms and public events, and brings her out in the community, sharing our fantastic wildlife. So welcome, Carol. It's great to have you.
Hi, Emma. Thank you for hosting us.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here, and it's wonderful to see your great picture with Maddie at the winery. The giant photograph. There she is. Can you tell us a little bit about Maddie?
Yeah, so Maddie is, as you said, a red-tailed hawk, and she is non-releasable. Our goal as the organization is to rehabilitate and release animals back into the wild. But Maddie came in as a very young bird, and she has bad cataracts in her right eye. So she doesn't have full vision. So she was placed with a falconer who tried to teach her to hunt, but she just couldn't do it. So we adopted her as an education bird. She's got a lovely personality. This video is showing her talons right now. You can see how dangerous those can be, how she's got her lethal weapons on her feet and on her beak. And red-tailed hawks are the most common hawk in California. So if you're into birding just a little bit, you've seen them.
Yeah, she is a beautiful bird, and so exciting for you to work with her and share in our community. Tell us a little bit more, though, about Napa Wildlife Rescue, because you do so many different things to help our wildlife.
Yeah, so we're the only organization in Napa County that's licensed to rescue, rehabilitate, and release wildlife. So you need permits from the federal government and from the state government in order to do this. And so we take in small mammals, we take in songbirds, we take in raptors. This year we've taken in more animals than ever before. We just topped 1,600 this week. So that's a lot of animals to care for, move in and out of the clinic. We were lucky, very, very lucky, to purchase our own clinic property, and we moved in there at the beginning of this year. And so it's really helped the quality of care that we can give to animals. What you're looking at in this video is that's a big raptor release aviary. Here's some releases, but you were looking at some of the ways we give care to animals. So that's our main thing, is rescue, rehab, and release. We also have an education program, which you talked about a little bit, where we take live animals into the classroom and teach grade school children primarily about wildlife. And then we also have a barn owl box program where we put up barn owl boxes in vineyards and also other people's property and maintain them, because barn owls, as a vintner, are very important to keeping rodents under control.
Yeah, we certainly have several barn owl boxes around our properties at St. Supéry, and they are very important. And
that's a great picture.
and that's out at the Dollarhide Ranch. But they are really just wonderful birds and great to have. Now, Carol, you mentioned you're hitting a record number of animals in rescue this year with 1,600 already. Do you attribute that to the fires and all of the landscape that we've lost, or what are you attributing that to this year?
It could be. I also think that our organization is just becoming better known, and people now know who to call when they find an animal. Yeah, you have to keep in mind that the animals we get are animals that people have found. So they come a lot more from urban areas than out, in the wildlands or out in the middle of vineyards. We do get a lot, of vineyard people calling us, but it's much more difficult to spot an injured animal when it's out in the middle of nowhere. So some of it, what we're seeing right now, very sadly, is a lot of emaciated hawks coming in. And we think that's up this year because of the fires. They aren't finding the prey that they would normally find this time of year. But most of our animals come from some kind of inappropriate human interaction, trees that are trimmed the wrong time of year and nests come out. Hit by cars, a lot of animals hit by cars. Caught by cats, house cats, kill billions of songbirds every year. So that's all part of our education program too. It's just helping people be more aware so they can be more careful.
Well, how can other people get involved? So
we are, I would say, 95% volunteer organization. We do have a very small staff that takes care of the medical needs of our patients, but we have a lot of volunteers coming in to clean and help with all the things that we need to do. We're totally private donations and grants. We get a small grant every year from the county of Napa, but that's pretty small in comparison to our needs. So, donations and volunteering are just, what we need to keep going.
Well, it is really amazing. I remember many years ago when I first moved to Napa Valley, there was a golden eagle that had been injured that my husband worked on with Napa Wildlife Rescue. And I remember going out when it was released back into the wild, and it was quite an impressive event. It's very, very memorable. So it was very cool in lots of ways to help. And if you aren't in the Napa Valley, do check your local area for a way to work with Napa Wildlife with a wildlife rescue near you, or help the one near us, because there's definitely been a great deal of need. And there's a lot of fantastic photos up at the winery from John Kaminsky, the executive director of Napa Wildlife, at the winery right now, if you'd like to see up close and personal the beautiful photographs that he's taken. So thank you, Carol, for all of your work. It's really wonderful to see the animals getting back out and being taken care of. It's definitely a challenge. And so thank all three of you for caring for our community and the community around us. We appreciate it. And as we celebrate the holiday season with some cocktails and a drink or two, we'll be raising a glass in thanks to all of you. Let's pop over to Manny Gonzales, our certified sommelier and VIP trade manager, who is an cocktail expert, mixologist, whatever we shall call you, WSET certified 2 and 3 and all that good stuff. But Manny is the one we go to for the cocktail recipes for sure. So what do you have planned for us this holiday season, Manny?
Yeah, so I came up with 2 really delicious cocktails that are super holiday entertainment friendly and are either wine-based or using our Spirit of St. Supéry brandy. So the first one, I like to call it a long winter's nap. And it is brandy. We're going to use persimmon puree. The idea is to use as many seasonal ingredients as possible. So the persimmons have just been harvested. There's a lot of citrus coming in to ripeness right now too. So we're going to use some mandarins that we have here on the property. They're Satsuma mandarins, and they're super juicy and delicious. A little bit of ginger syrup and some of our hard cider that we make here. So then the cool part about this cocktail in particular, the Long Winter's Nap, is that you can actually scale it up to make it a punch for your party. So I'm gonna make one version first, the single version first, and then we can talk about the scaling up. So in our shaker cup, we're gonna add all of our wet ingredients. We have 2 ounces of brandy. So this is not a lightweight cocktail by any means. We have an ounce of our persimmon puree, which I made really simply by just pureeing some very ripe persimmons with a little bit of water. We're going to use about a half an ounce of our Satsuma mandarin juice. Again, you can substitute whatever citrus you may have growing in your yard, but I really like it with the Satsuma mandarin. I've also tried it with orange juice, and it's really delicious. And then about a half ounce of ginger syrup. Ginger syrup, again, you just make your regular simple syrup, but before you put in your sugar to your warm water, just throw the ginger in there and kind of let it marinate. And that'll add a nice little kick of spice and winter toastiness that we all love. And then we are going to add ice and shake. And what I really love about this cocktail is that when you go to serve it, you can serve it either up, you can serve it on the rocks in a tall glass, or you can serve it in an old-fashioned glass with one really large rock. I'm going to serve it up for everyone today. I have a chilled cocktail glass.
Oh, beautiful.
And then we're just going to strain, pick your favorite cocktail glass.
Oh,
and then you have an option. You can either float some star anise in there. I have a really beautiful flower that we're going to float in there. And that's it.
You're giving Todd a run for his money. Now you're doing flowers.
I was inspired. I'm not going to lie. And like I said, that's a cocktail that you can actually scale up. Our website will have all of the recipes on there, but you're basically just, 2 parts brandy, 1 part persimmon, half a part ginger, and half a part of your juice. And then you can throw some herbs in there as well, some thyme or sage, or really whatever you have in your garden. But the idea is to make this really beautiful seasonal cocktail that you can either have individually or for your big group. So that is cocktail number 1. Cocktail number 2 is actually a wine-based cocktail being made with our estate Cabernet Sauvignon.
All right.
All
So
right.
you can have a little cocktail with it and then have the rest of the bottle at dinner. I like that.
That's the idea. The idea is to just, because we're only going to use about 1.5 ounces of this of our wine, so we're not going to need a lot. I'm going to use this as our little shaker, as our tin today. So we're going to use 1.5 ounces of our estate Cabernet Sauvignon. Again, this is just precursor to your actual wine for your dinner. All right. This does have a little splash also of our Supéry brandy, Spirit of Supéry brandy. So about 1/2 ounce in there. You could throw a little bit more if you're feeling saucy. And then I have about 1 ounce of our Moscato syrup. So I reduced a little bit of whatever leftover Moscato I had, reduced it down and added sugar to it. And it gives it a really beautiful, keeps that Moscato characteristic, but it's nice, a good sweetener for your cocktails. You can use it in lieu of honey because it'll dissolve a little bit nicer. 1/2 ounce or 1/4 ounce of fresh lemon juice. I use Meyer lemons from the garden, but you can
nice. A little
yeah,
sweeter.
they're really beautiful. You can see they're huge and juicy and really delicious. And then a couple dashes, 2 dashes or so of your favorite bitters. And then we will shake again.
Right.
This is called a Napa Cab Crusta, is what I like to call it. And a Crusta is a series of cocktails that involves a really robust sugar rim. And I have rimmed ours with a lavender sugar. And what you want to do is just take your glass and put a nice big wedge of lemon and literally spin your glass around to cover it. And then you're gonna roll the glass in your actual lavender sugar. I've already done that. We are going to add a really beautiful lemon peel right in there. A little bit of ice in the glass as well. We're going to strain.
That seems like a very refreshing cocktail to start while you're making dinner.
Yep, and there you go. And it is. It's just a little touch of wine, a little touch of citrus, and a lot of toasty warmth pre-dinner for sure. Again, this was a Napa Cab Cresta. You can use any Cabernet Sauvignon you would like, but ours is very ideal for it because it's got that nice juiciness to it.
Well, I think while your family's in town, it's always nice to have some new cocktail recipes and to do a little bit of a cocktail competition. I know the week of Christmas, you're going to be seeing little bits of Manny on our Facebook page. Do keep an eye on that. She'll be posting lots of great cocktails all week long if you need a little daily inspiration. Our brandy, we can ship directly to you in California, or you can check out under supéry.com/spirit, other locations that can ship to you and cocktail suggestions. It is our Muscat Canelli wine, double distilled in small copper pots. And then instead of cutting it back with water, we cut it back with that Muscat Canelli wine. So it's really a delicious brandy. And we're getting a little low on the current batch, but there's another one coming up soon. And I did notice that you had some hard cider there, Manny. I think Brooke's still on. Maybe she can tell us about this current vintage of hard cider. Our club members, you are allowed to buy a bottle unless you're a Winemaker Collection member or Divine Cabernet Collection member, then you get two. But don't miss out on it. There's only about 40 cases, so it's first come, first serve, and it's so delicious. Brooke, you want to tell us a little bit about the cider?
Yeah, so the apples come from Dollarhide, and we have 7 different varieties of apples that we hand crush and hand press and keep separate in the cellar. And it's a lot of work. We have a lot of different small containers. These are the 2021 apples that were very tiny this year, along with the grapes. But in 2019, we had normal size apples, but we just have a mini setup, and it's kind of a fun project that we do to utilize the fruit on the property. And it's been a lot of fun. I think we made our first batch of cider in 2015. So we've been doing it for a little while.
Well, the thing that I love about our cider is if you go in the store and you go to buy a bottle of cider, they all have ingredients lists. And those ingredients lists are very long. And I love the fact that our cider, we don't have to list ingredients because it contains apples and yeast. So it's really sort of fun to know that what happens with the freshness from those apples that you're keeping all separately and then coming up with that final blend. So if you're at the winery, do pick up your bottle or call quickly because it goes fast, and we just released it this last week. So that's kind of exciting. Well, I know this is the moment everyone's been waiting for, which is Chef Todd Kawachi, our amazing chef, who's going to help us create the perfect holiday ham. My husband is a huge holiday ham fan, and I'm hopeless. So I'm really looking forward to you teaching me quite a few things, Todd, especially maybe starting with how do I pick a ham and what should I be even thinking about? So welcome, Todd.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Staying with our theme of holiday dining, entertaining, and festive kind of dishes. Finishing off with ham. It might be one of the favorite things that you'll find on the table for a lot of people. Maybe somebody brings the ham as part of a potluck, or somebody still has the traditional roast or turkey to go along with it. But ham is always one of those crowd pleasers that people really look forward to. A lot of different types of ham. Emma was talking about which kind of ham should you look for. You know, there's some very convenient ones that are already spiral cut. They've got machines that can basically take a finished ham and run it on a machine that kind of scores or puts a spiral cut on there. So they're very thin. It's a nice way to have them already cut if you don't want to deal with the carving of it afterwards. You can also find hams that are already cured, smoked, salted, and you can slice them all yourself. So you can even find bone-in hams, which is a nice treat because it's a larger ham in most cases, but it definitely has the bone that's still intact in there. The idea is that anytime you're roasting something or cooking it on the bone, whether it's a prime rib on the bone, leg of lamb with a bone in, or even this ham, it's supposed to keep more of the actual natural flavor because you're cooking it when it's on the bone. It's been cured, went through that whole process of turning it into ham from pork leg, so that you've got more flavor in there. Now, one thing is, out of convenience, you can get one that is already boneless, which is a nice thing that you don't have to deal with carving around the bone. A lot of people also like to save that bone that's in the ham and use that as a flavoring agent for your beans. If you're going to do a nice pot of beans, you can use that, as well as some of the trim pieces of the ham. You can have some really hearty kind of braised beans for afterwards, the day after or so. You could use it also for a soup, a hearty soup. If you're going to make some lentils or a bean soup afterwards, hang on to that bone that's part of that ham as well, because it all has the intense flavor of the salt cure and the brine and the smokiness in there as well. So the choices are up to you on there. You do want to stay away from what they call a tavern ham. A tavern ham is one that is kind of pressed and processed and all put together, almost more like a deli type of a ham that you might find for sandwiches. That's not going to work out in the best case for your holiday ham, where you really want to showcase the nice pork in the first place that's gone through that ham process. So look for one that's got some nice shape to it, depending on the size that you're looking for, how many people you're going to feed, boneless or not. Those are some of the different options that you can have. You might even find some nice hams that are made from some heritage or heirloom type of pork, a specialty one that you can find there. So whether you go to your local grocery market, you go to a butcher shop and you ask for a specific one, either way, you can utilize this recipe. And like all the recipes here, I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible and approachable and easy. I counted the ingredients on this simple recipe, and there's basically 7, including the ham. So if you have these other ingredients, some of them you might even already have in your house, and you can just basically make a nice glaze, topping to go over your ham. It all starts with a good quality ham in the first place. You want to preset your oven, and what you're going to do is basically pre-cook that ham and get it up to temperature. Now, in most cases, these hams, unless they say that they are raw, and you can read your labels, if it's a fresh ham, it is one that is not cooked and smoked all the way through, but it's gone through the seasoning process on it. But for the most part, your hams are going to be already cooked. So if you wanted to, you could actually cook it or not cook it and slice it and eat it almost like a raw sandwich kind of a ham, but it's cooked all the way through. So definitely read the label on that. If you're going to do it as a hot preparation, as a star of the show for your holiday meals here, then you want to definitely go ahead and cook it to warm it through to that hot serving temperature. And what you want to do is take it up to about 145 degrees Fahrenheit. So of course you could use your handy dandy digital thermometer, the one that we love to use. Emma's favorite tool. And this is a great thing to use. So if you want to set it for 145 degrees, insert this into the thickest part of the ham, and then go ahead and put that into your oven. In my case, I recommended about 425 degrees for your oven, and go ahead and cover it with foil in your pan, your roasting pan. You might want to put it on a rack, depending on how big it is, and go ahead and cover that and put it into your oven just to really get that internal temperature going. Put the foil around it so it doesn't necessarily cause it to dry out, because you know that ham does necessarily, it has been cured, so it is salted intensely. Original, when you think about it, it was a preservation method back when they didn't have refrigeration. So it would be salted really well, and the smokiness on there and that low temperature of holding it will basically cook it through as well. So you want to get it to a point where it's about 145 degrees on the internal temperature. This is going to set the alarm off and let me know as I'm having 1 or 2 of my cocktails, the ones that Manny made, or enjoying a bottle of the wine. I know I can relax or work on my side dish. Maybe you're making your favorite macaroni and cheese to go along with this. Maybe you've got some braised greens, some collard greens, or something absolutely delicious for your holiday table. You can do all that while this is anywhere from up to maybe an hour to 2 hours, depending on the thickness, the size, bone in or not bone in or boneless. And so that's going to tell you when your ham is hot enough to serve on the inside. Now from there, you're going to make the glaze, and I'll show you what I have for the glaze that I picked out. Number one, I've got all of our delicious Dollarhide fruit. And so from that fruit, we definitely make our own preserves. So those of you who are in our club probably are familiar with this. This one happens to be Red Haven peaches. So this is our peach preserves. Not just for sweet things, not just for desserts, not just for putting on your toast or your croissant in the morning, but you can definitely use it as part of a cooking base in here as well. So I have that. I also have some wonderful Dijon mustard. I love the punch and the kick that you have from some good mustard. You could also use whole grain if you'd like. I tend to stay away from French's yellow mustard. Hot dog mustard is great that way. One of the other 7 ingredients is some brown sugar. This is light brown sugar, not too dark on the molasses, so I stay away from that. I like a little bit of the kick or the punch from some ginger. In this case, if you happen to have powdered ginger, you can use that. You could also use fresh, like what Manny was using for her syrup. But in this case, you probably have some powdered ginger around, especially this time of the year when you're making gingerbread cookies or maybe pumpkin pie from the previous holiday. So by using some powdered ginger in there, it's going to add a little kick to it all. And then, of course, I'm using some of our Moscato. So all that wonderful sweet fragrance and the aroma that comes from it, slight amounts of residual sugar in there, but not overly sweet. So by combining all of these all in together, the jam, the Dijon, a little bit of your brown sugar in there, that natural sweetness that's going to come in there, maybe 3 to 4 teaspoons worth for every jar, 10-ounce jar that you have. And then you can also add some fresh ground black pepper in there, add a little kick to it as well. So hearty flavors there. And by mixing it all in together, what you end up with is this nice glaze. It's fairly thick. It does have all that peach puree in there. It's spiced with some of the Dijon mustard and the ginger, and you can see the flecks of black pepper in there as well. And this is thinned out to this consistency where it can be spread onto your ham after it comes out of the oven. With the Moscato in there. So it's a natural tie-in. It's got sweet, it's got some incredible flavors. You'll find that a lot of recipes for ham have some kind of a sweet component to it. There's something about that hammy, salted smokiness that is really crying out for something sweet. So you might find recipes that have maybe some honey in with the base. They might have some maple syrup in there. They might have some molasses in it or brown sugar. And so I'm kind of playing off of by utilizing some of the things that we have. Even though our fresh peach season has gone, we do have our preserves here that make a fantastic pairing to go with it. So by mixing all of those in together, I'm going to jump ahead because I had to do my ham ahead of time there for you. But my ham basically came out of the oven when my timer went off at about 145 degrees. I know it's hot enough to serve. And from there, I'm going to take my glaze and basically put it over the ham itself. Let me jump to my Zoom oven and show you what I have.
I so want a Zoom oven for Christmas.
One of these days.
One of these days.
All right, so you can see this particular ham here. It's a nice ham. This is about 5 pounds. And you can see I put it into a roasting pan. I have it elevated on a little foil rack because I didn't have a rack that would fit in here. And that's going to raise it up a little bit. So the roasting on there is going to give a really nice kind of a glaze and caramelization there. Any of the juices that are on the bottom of the pan, you may want to give them a taste or pour a little bit of water in there. If you want to save that and use that, you could drizzle it over afterwards. Give it a good taste first to make sure it hasn't over caramelized to the point where it's too dark. But you can see that beautiful glaze on there. What I did with the ham was you can see I took my knife and cut maybe every inch, about half an inch in thickness or in depth. I cut and did a little score on there. So what that does is allow some of the fat that was on the outside cap there to render off, but it also allows the glaze to kind of permeate and really to get into the ham as well, besides the fact that it makes a really nice decoration. All right, so this ham has been out and resting for some time now. And so all you need to do is once it hits that 145, then I went ahead and put all this base on here. So you can see this one already has that glaze on it. I had to kind of do this ahead to show you the whole process, but a nice amount. You could either spoon it on like so and spread it. You could also use a pastry brush here and just spread it all over. You could even baste it maybe 2 times within like 20 minutes or so. And as well as the fact that you could also use a really cool kind of a brush from some fresh herbs. So sage, rosemary, very hearty kind of herbs that would work well. And I could use this as my brush as well. Just get in here and kind of paint it all on. You pick up a little bit of the flavor and the smell and the aroma coming from those. So that's another fun thing you could do. I've done that before with rosemary for some lamb. So now once we have our ham here, I'm going to go ahead and remove this off. I think I might even put on a glove here just for a little, so it doesn't get quite so sticky. But, you know, all your other sides are done. You've had a delicious cocktail or two. And you have some of your wine open. Maybe you're enjoying the Moscato to go along with this. Should be really nice because of the sweetness and that saltiness that's in there. So as you see this ham, this is a cross-cut section here. You can see the ham, the flesh on the side there. It is boneless. So this came from part of the actual leg of the animal from the ham cut there. And you can do a really nice presentation where you stand it up like so. I'm going to carve this and put it onto a platter. Any of your other decorations, the smells incredible, by the way. I wish you could smell. We have the Zoom smell as well. That would be really nice. The smokiness that's in there, I can pick up a little of the mustard that's coming off of that, and that sweet peach is coming off as well. So you can use your thinnest, sharpest blade and do nice slices. You could lay it down if you wanted to and cross-cut and slice across this way. You could use a serrated one if you needed to. This one has very fine teeth. That's a little easier to cut through. The ham itself is not overly dried out. You remember it's already cooked essentially when you get it, but it's just cold. So you're heating it all the way through to that hot serving temperature. Even if you wanted to break out the electric knife again from your Thanksgiving carving, you could definitely use that. And you can slice this as thick or as thin as you'd like to. So don't hesitate. If you wanted a little more steak-like, you could do that and cut it a little bit thicker slabs. Otherwise, you can slice it thinly, as it is pretty powerful. When you think about it, the flavor profile on ham is pretty intense and strong. And so by slicing through.
And we're going against the grain, the opposite of the grain.
So now this one has the grains that are kind of going this way. So as I'm slicing this, I'm going to slice it. And this is one of the things that you do want to do is slice it against the grain. But I know that, I'll show you this, as you put this down onto the plate and you see the grains, if you can see that, they're running long ways this way. You're going to actually cut it when you go to cut it and slice it. You're going to slice it acrosswise. So you are actually cutting it against the grain when you are going to slice it. And so if you have your fork and you're going to eat this off the plate, you are slicing smaller little bite-sized bites just like so. So you are in essence cutting it against the grain. Okay. So no worries there with that one. So you can slice it just like so. You can carve off as much as you'd like and keep carving more and more if you wanted to. Like I said, your electric knife would be good on this as well. Right? So just make a really nice presentation. Let's see if we can do a beautiful kind of a display piece here like this. Something to really show off for the holidays. If we can get it to stand up and cooperate. Still looks nice and juicy and moist on the inside. This is a nice ham. Typically they're hickory smoked. There might be applewood smoked ones, which are really nice as well. So you can just fan out your already sliced pieces. You don't necessarily need to put out more of the glaze, I don't think. The glaze itself, it does taste a little bit raw and strong on its own, but when it cooks and caramelizes on the ham itself, it looks really nice from there. Tastes great.
Beautiful.
Any of your other sides can go on with this as well. There's just, fresh fruit in the garnish. Manny was talking about the seasonality of everything. You have some nice herbs. Even some of the same ones that I had here from the brushing that I did on there. Let me turn it this way so you can see a little bit more.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so you have the wonderful glaze on there. A little fun thing that I happen to have here are some pickled mustard seeds. You have Dijon in there anyways. So I pickled some mustard seeds in-house here just by simply boiling some yellow mustard seeds a couple times, rinsing off any of the bitters. This is a nice little punch and little textural extra that you don't necessarily have to do, but I happen to have it, so I thought it would be a fun thing to put on here. You do have Dijon and mustard in with the flavor profile, so that really works with me. So if you do something like that and you have a nice display, you can lay out your ham like that along with all your other sides, and hopefully that's a beautiful match to go along with the Moscato. You've got some sweet in there. If you do have a little punch or spice that comes from the mustard, you do have a little lower alcohol here, as well as some residual sugar. And so that's going to tie in well with the fact that you've got some of the wine and the brown sugar on the ham, the saltiness and everything, but you have that wonderful bright acidity that's still going to help to cut through that richness that you have there. So hopefully you give this recipe a try. You can try that glaze on not just ham, maybe try it on a pork roast or a pork rack. Maybe even do it on a pork tenderloin. You can use that glaze mixture that you have there with the Moscato and the mustard for other purposes as well.
Well, that looks fantastic. Once again, Todd, you've made us home heroes with our families. So we may not be heroes to everybody else, but I think this holiday season will be a hero to our family with some of these dishes. I know Wes will be pretty darn happy if I show up with a ham.
Good.
So thank you again
Thank
for
you.
the wonderful tips. And this is the end of the season. So do, as you're planning your holiday dinners, do check out Todd's recipes online. We'll see you just once a quarter next year for our virtual tasting series, but we'll have lots of other fun things planned. Watch out for Take a Moment with Manny on Thursdays with some quick tips and tricks and cocktails, of course, coming from the hospitality team. We hope all of you have a wonderful, healthy, and happy New Year and holiday season. And we thank you all for joining us. So be well, be kind, and cheers. Great to see you all. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Happy holidays.